All right, guys, we are excited to bring to you the long-awaited Zone OS review. I think everybody who's in disc golf, and if you follow this channel, then certainly you've been looking forward to seeing the Zone OS in action. We've got to see some pros throw it, and obviously I think the key there is they're pros. So Brody Smith or Ezra throwing this is going to look absolutely nothing like one of us, mere mortals throwing it. That said, I think looking at the flight numbers, on the standard zone, you have 4, 3, 0, 3. And then where you kind of see it changed quite a bit, the flight numbers for Zone OS, 4, 2, 1, 5. You can think about that fade jumping up 2 numbers, and then just think about how stable this disc already was, the standard zone. I'm expecting this to be a little ridiculous. A little bit more of a utility disc than a normal disc you throw off of tees and whatnot. And then I think another thing to note is just that glide goes down as well, which to me, when I think of approach disc, I really like that. Something I know is going to get down to the ground fast. The only final thing I'll add is there's a slightly different layout today. Typically we just throw out into a field with drivers and kind of let you guys know what they look like from above and give our feedback. Today we're going to be throwing towards a basket because these are approach discs. And so I'll show you all the different angles for backhand, a couple for forehand, going towards this basket with about a 5-mile-per-hour tailwind. And as always, guys, we love your feedback. Of course, we love the positive feedback. We also appreciate that constructive criticism. We know there's things we can work on and get better at as we reach towards our goal of being the best online resource for disc reviews that gives you not only the best quality production, but just honest feedback about every disc that we review. With that said, we've been told to cut back a little bit on the commentary. I think that's all right. We'll take the standard zone backhand on Hyzer. Yeah, so you can see that definitely had the same overstability that we've always known and loved with the zone. Really did finish right next to the basket. With this kind of distance right here, I just put it out a little bit to the right, knowing that it would fade left. I'm feeling like on the OS, I'm gonna have to put it out way wide and definitely try to pump it a lot harder. That's about a 60-70% throw on power. I'm thinking I'm gonna do about 80% power and a little wider on the Zone OS, so let's see how it looks. All right, so we're in the circle. Definitely had to pump that out there. You can see it was swung a little bit further right. Needed quite a bit more power, I'd say, about 10-15% more power to get there. Both are in the circle, so we'll call that good. But you can definitely feel, one, the difference in the way the disc feels in your hand, and then obviously more importantly, that flight. It really just dumped immediately and tried to get down to the ground and left. So I think that's pretty much what I would have expected going into this, but we'll see how it goes with the other angles. Looks like we settled about 20 feet from the basket, so that's another circle one hit, which you really should be getting from here, but you just never know. I threw that out flat. You can see with this zone, the standard zone, it will go out flat for a while, it'll hold straight with a good enough power, but it will still finish left every single time unless you just have a wild headwind. And so that's kind of what I would expect from that. Again, a circle one hit. I'm gonna try to get the Zone OS out there on a similar line. I'm gonna have to push it out a little bit wider on the right side and have it come back in. And again, I'm gonna need more power, so let's see what that looks like. Yeah, it snuck into circle one. It's crazy. I mean, I definitely think it was a tiny bit of Hyzer on that, just the slightest. But any other disc that's normal stability, that release basically is flat. I mean, maybe a tiny bit of Hyzer, but it might flip up a little bit or hold that angle of close to flat for a second. The second that got out of my hand, if you go back and look, it went from about here to here. And it still pushed, got into circle one, but you can tell you have to throw it very different. Different power, and then different line a little bit further out right. So again, kind of what I've expected, but that's all in a good way. I think that's what you want to see with this disc, and it's what people are buying it for. So we'll see what it looks like on Anhyzer now. I'm thinking that's between like 26 and 30 feet. I think it made it in circle one. You could see that it fought out of that Anny. There's a good amount of Anny. On a normal mid, like if you do like a rock like that, it's basically a roller. But with that zone, it's kind of what everybody's come to know and love with it, is that you get that reliable finish left. I'm curious what the Zone OS is gonna look like. I think that same throw at the OS is just diving left and would be too short and potentially maybe like in line with the basket, but definitely short. So we'll see what that looks like. That one might go in the bloopers because I didn't quite make circle one, which we need to, but that was still a great representation of what I'm talking about. So maybe I'll throw that in a little bonus clip. All right, guys, so I just went up and measured that one. Out of my hand, I thought there was no way that was getting circle one. Got it at 30 feet, so about 3 feet to spare in the circle. Now, realistically, knowing me, I'm missing that putt, but we got the challenge. We made it in circle one. That was a great demonstration of what that disc will do with just a ton of Anny and a lot more power is what it took to get into circle one. I'm embarrassed to say that was about 90 to 100% power. I mean, to get 240 feet, that's just how stable that disc is. I max out around 370 with the driver, and yeah, it's an embarrassing feeling, but that just speaks to how stable and how low the glide is on this new Zone OS. All right, on past videos, we've gotten you guys, for every disc we reviewed, we've gotten like one forehand look. Since this is an approach disc, we'll try to get you guys 2 of the more normal angles. We'll go ahead and start with getting this out on like a flat to a bit of a Hyzer angle. Same with the Zone OS. And then because it is kind of a utility disc at that amount of stability, I'm also gonna put one on a lot of Anny. And we can just, you have to imagine that there's woods and trees in the way that would force you to make that shot, but I think that'll be a good representation of what this disc could be used for. Yeah, there's the zone, the standard zone on Hyzer. Classic approach shot when you're in the open. Swing it out wide to the left, let it fade in. It's exactly what we're looking for and exactly what I've come to expect of that standard zone. Okay, I think we pushed that to about somewhere between 15 and 10 feet. But man, I mean, that was probably 80% power at that forehand, which I don't have a bomb forehand or anything like that. But I think for most players, it's gonna be hard to get it up to about 240, 250 with the forehand on Hyzer. I mean, you saw immediately, it just shot towards the ground like it was a magnet pulling it to the ground, which is a great thing in some instances. That's a lot of the time what you're looking for. So again, just really Discraft, and I don't say this about every disc, but they nailed what they marketed this disc for. It's exactly what it's doing to this point. So I'm really excited about it so far. I want to show you guys what this looks like in more of a utility setting, which a lot of people will be using it for. So I have to ask you to use your imagination just a little bit. I'm gonna Standstill Anny flex forehand with the standard and the Zone OS. I don't think I'm getting the OS in circle one. We'll give it our best shot. But just imagine that you're in one of those classic spots where you have no run up, you kind of have to flex it around some trees and rely on the disc stability to get back into circle. So I think we've all been in that spot, can picture what I'm talking about. So let's see what it looks like out in this field. And she's parked, and that's exactly kind of what you're going for in that scenario. If I threw the OS like that, it would be about 50 feet, 60 feet that way, and 40, 50 feet short but that's parked at the standard. If that gives you kind of a representation of what I'm talking about stability wise. We'll see what the OS looks like here and we'll wrap it up. Yeah, I mean, that's weirdly a park job. I mean, absolute Anny hack job over the top. Swing it out left, aim further left than the standard zone, and it needed that to finish next to the basket. Incredibly powerful and stable and consistent. Really not much more you can ask for a disc. All right, so that's a wrap on the Zone OS review. Again, we looked at it compared to the standard zone, which is a very overstable approach disc. But this kind of just makes it look like it's a, I don't even know, makes it look flippy almost. It's ridiculous how stable this is. For somebody of my arm power, maybe not a disc I'm throwing off tees often, maybe not a disc that I'm throwing 15 times around, but definitely a utility disc that has to go in my bag. It is crazy how overstable it is, and anybody knows if you're playing in the woods especially, how often that can come in handy to just have a overstable disc that you know will get to the ground fast. And Discraft absolutely nailed it with the Zone OS.